Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we have some absolutely shocking and frankly concerning news regarding disgraced former FBI Director James Comey. You see, yesterday afternoon, former FBI Director James Comey posted 8647 on Instagram, a deliberate and coded call to assassinate President Trump. The term 86 means to scrap, delete, or kill, and 47 directly points to President Trump himself, our 47th president. In truth, Comey's 8647 post was a chilling message using established slang for murder that he knew full well as a former FBI director. There is absolutely no ambiguity. 47 is President Trump, and Comey's intent was a dangerous call for violence. Now, after receiving massive backlash, Comey deleted the post, claiming ignorance in a pathetic follow-up message. I posted earlier a picture of some shells I saw on a beach walk, which I assumed were a political message. I did not realize some folks associate those numbers with violence. Ladies and gentlemen, Comey's excuse that he didn't know what these numbers meant is absolutely unbelievable. With decades working at the DOJ and as FBI director, he navigated law enforcement circles where 86 is known slang for taking somebody out. He knew exactly what he was doing. His deletion of the post reveals he knew its criminal implications. That feeble claim of ignorance is nothing but a transparently desperate attempt to dodge accountability for a post that could really inspire violence against President Trump. And so, with years leading the FBI, there was absolutely zero chance that former FBI Director James Comey was clueless about 8647's meaning. He posted it to provoke and instigate harm, and now he's scrambling to cover his tracks. Really, this isn't just some random scandal or some random news headline. No, this is a serious national security crisis. James Comey's reckless and direct call to violence threatens the President of the United States of America. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot more to unpackage with all of this, but before we do, I want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. But okay, check this out. After Comey issued his direct threat against President Trump on Instagram, President Trump's FBI director Kash Patel chimed in by saying, "We are aware of the recent social media post by former FBI Director James Comey directed at President Trump. We are in communication with the Secret Service as well as Director Curran." Then, President Trump's Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem weighed in, saying, "Disgraced former FBI Director James Comey just called for the assassination of President Trump. DHS and Secret Service is investigating this threat appropriately." And then, ladies and gentlemen, our Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, also chimed in. Take a look.
Do you believe Comey should be in jail?
I do. Any other person with the position of influence that he has, people who take very seriously what a guy of his stature, his experience, and what the propaganda media has built him up to be, I'm very concerned for the president's life. We've already seen assassination attempts. I'm very concerned for his life. And James Comey, in my view, should be held accountable and put behind bars for this.
And so, folks, Tulsi Gabbard is absolutely correct. Comey's dangerous post demands swift action, and President Trump's team is ensuring this threat is met with the full force of justice to protect the president's life. And so this is why right now, the FBI, DHS, and Secret Service are now conducting a joint investigation into former FBI Director James Comey's direct call to violence. But ladies and gentlemen, check this out. Just the other day, President Trump's former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn gave his thoughts on James Comey, and I think you're going to want to take a look at this.
Just a yes or no answer from the general. Nobody respects you more than our audience. Will we get handcuffs? Will we get prison sentences? Will we finally get arrests? The long promised 10 years that we've waited to see these criminals operate. Will we get arrests, General?
Yes, and for Jim Comey, start measuring yourself there, buddy. I know you're kind of a tall guy, so go to a tall man's shop, send your measurements over to the Bureau of Prisons because it's coming.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. As things currently stand, it looks like James Comey is screwed. And now, as many of you may know, President Trump actually fired former FBI Director James Comey in early 2017 after identifying him as an agent of the deep state. And so since then, Comey has done everything he possibly could to undermine President Trump's political career. Comey testified against President Trump in front of Congress, during which he lied multiple times. He leaked confidential memos in order to spark a special counsel. He trashed President Trump in his book, and he even campaigned for Kamala Harris in 2024. So really, his 8647 Instagram post is just the latest in his anti-Trump crusade. But check this out. In all likelihood, the Trump administration already had an ongoing investigation into James Comey's anti-American behavior before he even made this violent Instagram post. So now, Comey has really just handed President Trump the final nail for his own coffin. In truth, the deep state is very clearly losing control, running out of options, and getting desperate. And so this is why people like James Comey are resorting to coded calls for violence against President Trump, hoping to instigate an attack on President Trump's life. As many of you know, President Trump has survived numerous assassination attempts in just the last 12 months alone, so Comey's blatant call to violence is a grave threat that must be taken seriously. So here's the truth. Former FBI Director James Comey needs to be arrested, investigated, and held criminally accountable for his clear attempt to incite violence against the President of the United States of America. We absolutely cannot tolerate this sort of behavior. The days where these deep state Washington, D.C. swamp beasts get to do whatever they want with complete and total impunity have come to an end. And so now that President Trump is back in the White House, we are once again a country of law and order. Every time one of these anti-American deep state traitors, like James Comey, for instance, pops up and says something or does something as disgusting and vile as this little 8647 message, we need to crack down on them with the full force of the law. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if we are really trying to make America great again and put America first, we can't have deep state radicals like James Comey trying to get the president killed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up, I do want to say real quick that we officially have a Morse News Twitter page as well as a Morse News Facebook page. So if you use either of those platforms, please go down below and drop a follow in order to get breaking news updates that relate to everything we talk about here in the YouTube videos. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for today's video, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there, and like I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.